Welcome to episode 3 of GearGeek.com, the interview series. My name is Matt. I'm joined by my co-host Zach, and we are very pleased to have our next guest on for episode 3. He is a native of St. Catharines, Ontario. Spent some time in the QMJHL with the Gatineau Olympics and a couple other teams as well. Currently playing overseas in the UK for the Guildford Flames. Thank you for joining us today, Jake Kugler.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So,
Yeah, and I remember, you and I have exchanged some DMs on Gear Geek and talking some gear. But it's our understanding that it's been a little bit of a recovery process for you right now, before you get back on the ice and back into game action. So how's everything going with that?
yeah, everything's going well. I'm actually stepping on the ice for the first time tomorrow. So, yeah, it was great to find your page. I'm sure I bombarded you guys a little bit because I was out from playing, but yeah, no, things are well, and appreciate you for asking for sure.
Awesome. So, let's just start like right at the beginning of it all, like going back to your playing days as a kid. Were you always a gear guy? Was this something you kind of picked up later on in life, or what kind of started you on your gear journey per se?
Um, yeah, I was a gear guy from day one, honestly. My old man was a goalie, and it kind of started out with like custom pads and I'm a 90s baby, so you had all the individuality that goalies have back in that day, Mike Richter with his mask and Broder and Waugh and all those guys. And I just thought, creating goalie gear was the coolest thing ever. Unfortunately, my old man wouldn't let me be a goalie, so I had to go the player route, but yeah, it kind of just took off like that as well. My dad actually made me um, like a little makeshift hockey arena in our basement as a kid, and all my buddies were over playing mini sticks. I know you guys call it knee hockey, but up in
Oh,
Canada,
I
it's
call
mini
them mini
sticks.
sticks. I call them mini sticks. I grew up
Oh,
calling them
yeah, yeah, that's the right way. I didn't want to say anything, but no, but yeah, we would spend hours down there, drawing, making our own sticks, heating it over the stove, just like everybody would. But yeah, it really translated. And even when I was playing minor hockey, I always tried to make my gear a little different than everybody else's. And yeah, it's something that it's just stuck with me the whole time, honestly.
So as you've gotten older and into the pro ranks now, do you kind of still have that passion for equipment? I feel like we feel like it goes away a little bit with some guys, and they start to care a little bit less about the gear that they're using. But do you still have that fire and passion for it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that because, as soon as you kind of get out of minor hockey and you're not buying your own stuff anymore, and guys are kind of just like, oh, I'll use whatever my team's giving me or whatnot. I have no idea what's on the market nowadays, but no, I'm honed in still all the time. I'm always looking. That's why I love, finding your guys' page because it's right up my alley. I'm in tune with all your guys' stuff too. So, um, yeah, definitely same thing. Now that I have the privilege to kind of customize my own stuff to a certain degree, then I like to take it, make it a little different than everybody else's and do what I can. So.
Real quick, going back, I just got to ask. You said growing up, you loved like the goalie gear and all that kind of stuff. Who was like your ideal like goalie setup? Like, if you can name, like, do you have like an all-time favorite? Like, this guy was the best of the best.
You mean like player wise or gear wise?
Gear wise, like who had the
Gear
best,
wise?
your favorite mask or your favorite your pads.
Yeah. There's so many masks that are staples, like John Van Beesbrook with Florida. Like I said, Richter and Marty. Um, my dad, obviously,
Joe had that one.
Cujo. Yeah, Cujo
Yeah,
obviously is
yeah,
a huge staple
yeah.
in our house too. I mean, we had pictures of Felix Potvin and Cujo everywhere, and I just really loved back in the day kind of how simple I guess the masks were, but how definitive they were also. But I would say like style wise. probably Trevor Kidd was just the man, no
Yeah.
matter where he went. He just always had something that was so different and so cool, and I always loved that about him. But yeah, it's just, and then you had Hasek too. I mean, ugliest helmet in hockey, but made it work. So it's yeah, it was good. So we were actually talking about that in the dressing room today. I kind of said to guys like, who's like your top three style guys, from any era really. And obviously, like Patrick Kane gets thrown out there. Kucherov's got pretty good style. But like my one, two, and three would probably be Fedorov in the one slot with Bure in the two, and probably Patrick Kane in the three. I just think, those guys were so clean, and Fedorov with the white skates. I mean, it's unmatched. So
100%.
Yeah, that's a good top three.
what would you guys pick for best style
Well,
player wise?
Fedorov is definitely my number
Yeah,
one.
I
I'll
agree with that.
say, because just those with those Nikes and the all whites
Yeah.
were good. Honestly, like for a more, I don't like you pretty much rounded it out, but for if I had to pick a guy who's kind of inching his way forward, to from like a more modern guy, I really like Kirill Kaprizov, the way,
Yeah.
this 4500 and
Yeah.
the cuffs and sawing off the tongues of his skates, like
Yeah.
he's doing it for me right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree. He's in his own lane. The 4500's kind of dying out here and there. It's not it used to be so popular. I love that helmet, but it's concussion central if you're wearing that thing nowadays. So, but yeah, I know, I agree. That's a good pick too.
Yeah, it's definitely it's like all the Russians I feel like are the best style out there for sure. I also love like it's just subtle stuff, but I like Nylander and Marner
Hmm.
and Matthews, just like you see their gloves and stuff. They're doing stuff that most players
Yeah.
haven't done before. It's just that uniqueness coming out and personality starting to show out as much as they possibly can. I know it's tough for players, but yeah, it's definitely I think we're getting in a good era of seeing who a player truly is by their equipment.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You didn't really have that until like, I mean, I could be missing a few guys, obviously, but like Jeremy Roenick, that in that 90s era, he was like the personality kind of, and then it kind of did go stale for a while. I feel like, I mean, Sid was he's just the ideal hockey player. Like it's all business. He says the right things. There's never any like drama or anything like that. And then um, Matthews and Nylander come along, and now Matthews is doing like magazine photo shoots, and I think it's good for the game, obviously. And then a guy like Zegras too comes in and takes the cover in his rookie year of NHL. It's good. It's nice to see some flair for sure.
Definitely.
Speaking of that really quick, not necessarily gear related, but I'm just curious because given your hometown, you're from St. Catharines, which for those of listening who don't know, it's in Canada, but like basically a suburb of Buffalo, to put it one way. So who did you grow up cheering for? You said you had Pot Van posters at your house, Cujo posters. Were you a Leaf fan or were you a Sabre fan or someone else? What was it like growing up?
Yeah, I mean, my old man tried to make me a Leaf fan, and I was rooting for him sometimes, but I'm a Pittsburgh fan, for sure. Best buddy of my dad was a huge Mario Lemieux fan, and because my dad was a goalie, the joke in my family was that my dad's friend was actually my real dad because he's a really good player. He had good hands, and he was a huge Pittsburgh fan, Lemieux fan, so I kind of gravitated towards that side, and then lucky enough we got Crosby, who was my favorite player too, so it worked out perfect. But yeah, like you said, we're just on the other side of Niagara Falls. So it's like a 15-minute, 20-minute drive to Buffalo's arena for me. So yeah, we'd spend a lot of time going to Sabres games, like I said, in that era with like Drury and Pominville and Afinogenov and Ryan Miller and Tim Connolly. Like those were good days for Buffalo for sure. So that was fun to watch.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. I can just picture I'm thinking you had to be what, like 11 or 12 at the time, or maybe even 10 when the Penguins won the lottery, but like
Yeah,
10-year-old
I was.
you in 2005 when they won the lottery.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was a good day for sure. And then I'll never forget the day Pittsburgh came to Buffalo for the first time that I was able to go see them at least. I think it was Malkin's rookie year, and right before they came to Buffalo, he got hurt tripping over that Devils player. I forget who it was. And then he separated his shoulder. So Malkin was out. We were driving there knowing Malkin was out. It's a tough bounce. I actually had like Rimouski Oceanic jersey, Crosby jersey from his junior
Oh,
days, and I
sweet.
was pumped. I was pumped to wear it. And we get to the game, and Sid's not playing either, and me and my best friend were just devastated. So whatever, we're sitting there enjoying the game, and I go like, you want some cotton candy? Like, yeah, perfect, that'd be great. So I get this bag of cotton candy, and I didn't notice, but the entire bag was covered in exploded ranch sauce, and it was just all over my brand new Rimouski jersey.
Wow.
Smelled so terrible. Smelled like throw up. It was a tough day. It was a tough day for us, but I ended up getting to see him again. Actually, a friend of mine I played junior with, Daniel Sprong, was drafted to Pittsburgh at the time. He was a black ace in the Cup final when they played San Jose. So he got me tickets to game 1 and 2 of the Cup final in Pittsburgh, and that was the first time I saw Sid play. It was pretty awesome. So yeah, it was good.
Well, pretty good state to make your debut of seeing Sidney Crosby play
Yeah, exactly.
for the
For
first
sure.
time, and that's
For
awesome.
sure.
Hmm. All right. Well, let's get into some of your playing days and some of your like equipment habits. So obviously we mentioned in the opening you spent a good amount of time from like a junior scale with the Gatineau Olympics in the queue and doing some research on you from there. It looked like you were using Warrior sticks most of the time. The Dynasty HD1, I believe
Hmm.
what was one of them. Now I can't remember. I know there's like at least a few QMJHL teams who I think have partnerships with Warriors. So, and I always feel like I always feel like, and Zach and I have talked about this before. We always feel like there's like so much more less Warrior and like True sticks in all of the CHL than
Hmm.
than the others. Was that the case in Gatineau? Did you guys have an agreement with Warrior and were a lot of other guys using Warrior sticks?
Yeah. So my first year, when I got there, we were actually a Bauer team, and that was like Christmas morning for me. Honestly, I couldn't believe like I was 17 years old, and you just get to the rink, and the Bauer guy comes to you and he says like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, well, "What do you mean?" Like he goes, "You can get anything." And my eyes lit up, right? So um I I didn't know anything at the time, like that you could get custom curves. I'm just thinking like, oh, like maybe I'll get like a P28 or a P92 or anything like that. Um, and Bauer has just a million codes as well. So I wasn't as in depth in that aspect is what I mean. But I was just so flustered. I was just like, I want whatever Stamkos is using. Just send me Stammer stick. I don't care. Um, and they got to me, and it was a total one total one graphic with the G3 build and his stock curve, and it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. I was just pumped to like have Stammer stick in my hands. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, and then that year finished out, and I think it was just a financial thing for the team. Gatineau was really actually one of the first teams that I remember going to Warrior. Um, and yeah, from there on, we used Warrior for my entire time there.
So that
Was
was
Yeah, go ahead, Zach. Sorry.
I was gonna say, so that's like around the time that like Warrior kind of like was like transitioning to like, being a legit player in the game. So like
Yeah,
what was it like going from Bauer to that's, trusted and tried to
yeah,
one still kind of like trying to build up the rep?
yeah. You know what? They were fantastic. It was you thought Bauer had a lot of things to customize. Like Warrior was just the same, if not more. Even nowadays, I'll touch on that later, but nowadays you can do anything with Warriors. But at the time, Same thing. It's hard to transition over curves and things like that. Like I didn't know if they had the Stamkos curve or whatnot. So I actually had some pro stock Nathan Horton's Warriors when I was in minor hockey, and it was probably the best curve I had ever used. And I just said, hey, like, do you have Nathan Horton's specs or whatever? So same thing. They just sent me his specs. Um, Again, great. It's an adjustment for sure. I think anybody who plays the game knows that you go from brand to brand. There's some differentiation, but yeah, they were really good to us. Obviously, they were new, so they were trying to get in the game, like you said. They outfitted us with a ton of clothes, a lot more than some other companies at the time. Um, but obviously, the CHL at the time still had the CCM deal and everything like that. So we were only Warrior sticks really, and then just our Gitch and our tracksuits and things like that were all Warrior. But they treated us well for sure.
So you said it was a bit of an adjustment when Gatineau switched over to Warrior. First of all, Stamkos's curve. It's a pretty standard P92, is it not?
Yeah, it was a little bit it was a little bit more towards the toe than a normal P92. What from what I thought.
Okay. Yeah.
It wasn't quite a P28. Um, Obviously didn't have the rounded toe. It's got the P92 blade shape and everything like that. But I felt that the curve was just a little bit deeper than a P92 and more kind of in the middle. Um, but yeah, at the time it would work. It did the job. So
And what was Horton's then in that case?
Hortons was real deep. Like it was almost like um, I'm not sure if you've seen Eichel's new. He kind of uses that what's that
The
curve
the, the
we've been
Ziegler.
talking about?
The
Yeah, the
Ziegler.
Zegras curve.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I'm drawing a blank. I actually got my hands on one of his in the summer, and to me, it looks a little bit different than Zegras's curve. It seems to be like a lot deeper as well. Um, and then yeah, he went back to that P92 toe. But this Horton curve was like the first time that I had like a really big toe in my hands because it really wasn't a curve yet when I was playing minor hockey, right? That P28 hadn't come out. So you weren't really used to seeing anything like that in the time. So it was nice.
Awesome. Wow. I didn't even think of um because I'm trying to think back because when he was in Boston on those like cup on the cup run,
Yeah.
not like like he was one of their standout, warrior guys. But I can't picture his blade right now. When we're done here, I'll definitely be checking that out.
Yeah. They must have been pro returns. I got them off eBay. I remember my grandmother got them for me as a gift, and they were black and yellow Warrior Diablos maybe at the time. Um,
It sounds
yeah,
like the
y-
Diablos or the probably the Widows were a little bit before that, I feel like. So yeah, maybe it was the
yeah, it was something of that nature, and it was a metal pipe. He was using like 100 flex. I had no business using it, but the curve was just so awesome that I didn't care. So,
yeah.
um, but yeah, there's a really big sports store in my city, Front Row Sports, massive hockey warehouse. They outfitted me my whole life, um, and around probably my minor major bantam year. So I don't know what you'd be probably be like 14, 15 years old at the time, 13, 14. Um, they started getting in pro stock stick shipments, and we were kind of like, what's this? Like you're always used to the retail off the rack, right? And then all of a sudden we've got, Reebok 9Ks and AI nines and just flooding this place. So when I was like minor bantam, I'm using these guys 100 flex pro return sticks and just trying out 50 different curves in a season, because they were like, yeah, $100, no warranty, no tax, just take them. And we were just my poor dad, man, he had to work overtime or something. I was picking up so many sticks, but yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But that was my first experience of like, wow, this stick has like a lot different grip than the other one, and the kick point's weird here and this and that. And yeah, it was probably a super dangerous thing for me to get exposed to that young. But yeah,
Yeah, no, that's the fun of it, just trying out all the different ones that you can. So
yeah.
definitely on the same page with you there. Um, but yeah, so okay, f fast forwarding a little bit, you spent some time in the ECHL with the Orlando Solar Bears. Now, at that time. Uh I believe it was only like 5 or so years ago. So the ECHL's deal with Warrior was
Hmm.
already in place. So what was it like? But it did look like you were using some CCM sticks for a little bit. So are the ECHL exemptions pretty similar to the AHL where it's like three per guy? I can never remember the rules off the top of my head, but
Yeah,
it's something in that
very
ballpark.
similar. Yeah, it's like you get I believe you get three CCM players, three CCM exemptions. And usually it's guys who are on like two-way A deals or guys who get sent down from the A. Um, yeah, if you saw a picture of me with a CCM, I'd probably snuck it from school and it was an early photo from the year or something. And sometimes I usually spray paint my sticks anyways, but um, if it wasn't, we probably just didn't have any paint around and you caught it. But yeah, so we were Warrior in Orlando. Um, and a lot of teams are different. It depends. It depends where you are. Some teams will get the Warrior team sticks. Other teams will allow you to do the full custom Warriors. It just kind of depends on where you are. If there's a lot of movement in the coast, unfortunately, and there if you're not a lock in the lineup, you're probably not going to get to pick out your specs and stuff like that. You'll kind of just get what they've got in store. So um, but yeah, those are the exemption rules.
And how about the like for you going in there and all of a sudden having to wear like the QRE gloves and it may have been like the Alpha One helmet
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like because I know helmets specifically they can be guys are picky about them. So
for sure.
how was that for you?
Yeah, and like I was lucky enough to kind of wear CCM all the way through ever since junior. So you obviously get used to one brand. And I'd been wearing the same helmet for like, geez, 4 or 5 years, I think. Um, and then yeah, you kind of just get to Orlando and they're like, hey, this is what you get, and we don't have any more because our helmet's custom purple. So you're not going to find any other bucket that matches that
Oh,
color. So you're
makes
stuck with it,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes some getting used to. I know a lot of guys aren't fans of it. You kind of see some guys even um, in the coast in the A kind of sneaking whatever they want with how concussions have gone in probably the last 5 years. They're a lot more lenient with it, um, and they kind of especially if you've had some past history as well, that they'll just say get get what you want type of thing, and then they just throw the electrical tape over it, black it out, and you're good to go. But in terms of the gloves, Warriors gloves have always been money. I think that was their. You guys probably remember just them buying what was it, Mia, however you say it. They bought out Mia and then they were the first ones to come out with the glove customizer. And I lost, just like everybody else, hours of my life making gloves that I wish I had, you know what I mean? Um, yeah, so they've always been money. Those are the those are the alphas now, and then the coverts kind of have that flexible cuff. I always wear the flexible cuff one. I really like it. I think it fits great. Um, but yeah, so there was no adjustment with that. And then pants wise, like we had team pants or girdle, whatever you want, same thing. Everybody's got the option. So yeah, there's really, I would say pretty much the only adjustment really was the helmet, and then after a while, you just seem to forget about it. So
Did it pass the mirror test though? Sorry, Zach.
Very good.
God no, God
No.
no, it did not. No, look like an
Hell
alien
no.
with that thing on. I
Yeah.
don't care. Sorry, Warrior, but yeah, it's So
did they like sit there and be like, all right, are you sure? Because like you said, you had the purple, so it's like you got to imagine they're not going to be going out and being like, all right, well, we'll get you this later on in the year. Like, was it pretty much
yeah.
like, this is what I want? Okay, so you got to be sure with it 100% because it's not changing at that point.
Yeah, well, this is kind of the fact of like Warrior being so good and giving just an abundance of things. Like, you'll notice in the coast that Warriors made custom team gloves for everybody, but they always have the team name stitched on the cuff.
Yeah.
So those are in abundance. Like I was in the coast and I still had, you know, 4 pairs of gloves in my stall. Like they didn't really care; they were just kind of chucking them at you. We also had a great equipment manager at the time, treated me like gold. You know, I don't know if that's like every place, but um, so I was really thankful for that. But at the time, I mean, they still do, I'm sure, but they had two options for helmets. Um, I can't even remember what they're called, but uh, yeah, I just had that one that you could twist in the back, and that kind of just made up for the uncomfortability of the thing, and it kind of just suck it to your head. So that's fine. But
Just a quick side note. I'm always curious, what pros think of this. Like, and we haven't really had an opportunity to ask NHL guys. So you're like a perfect example. When you go down south and you're playing there in Florida, and I know like Orlando's not necessarily like Miami or Fort Lauderdale, but like
mhm.
it was still like in the 70s, like in the dead like winter months. What was that like? Like, do you prefer that like or do you prefer like the hockey weather and getting yourself fired up, with the snow outside, whatever? Kind of goofy question, but I've always been curious if that really matters to the guys.
uh, it's a great question. First of all, I love it. It was like I always say to everybody, like, I'm so upset that I played there so early on in my career because nothing will ever compare to it. You know, like at the time I go to the coast, I'm 23 years old and I'm in shorts all year round. I go to the rink in my flip-flops. I practice. I come out of practice and we're either racing to the pool or we're racing to the golf course, you know? And then so it's impossible to beat. I mean, you see Matthew Kachuk in Florida driving his golf cart to the practice.
Right,
It's
yeah,
like
that's what I was just gonna say.
living
Like
living
people
the
were
life.
saying, like when the Panthers just opened that new practice facility in Fort Lauderdale, they were saying like, oh, look at like it's very common for the guys to just drive their golf carts to
Yeah,
practice. Okay, so you
yeah.
you had a like a bit of a taste of that. And
100%. And especially with like Orlando with all the amusement parks and like there's always something to do there. Um, yeah, I had to have a little sit down with my parents at the end of the year and they're like, why are you coming home with no money? So yeah, I'm like, oh well, yeah, I guess golf was adding up. I was golfing 3 times a week. So but but yeah, no, it's unbelievable. I loved that Southern Division. I mean, it just beats the cold. Nobody wants to go out. It's dark, it's cold, it's miserable, and you know, unfortunately, I don't want to speak badly about any place, but when you're driving up to Wheeling and middle of January or something, and you're thinking, oh God, I've got it pretty good out there in Florida, So, um, but yeah, like um, just a side note to that too, like when I was a young kid, when I was probably 16 years old, we had a training group of guys back in my city, and I was the youngest by far, but we had like Dan Girardi, Jordan Nolan, and then a couple other guys who are big. I mean, they're big in our town, but European players like Trevor Parks played for Red Bull Munich, and Alex Friesen, who's in the Dell, and Justin Shug, who's a very good OHL player and had a very good career in Europe as well. Um, but yeah, like to get expertise from like those guys and growing up with them and seeing having them show me the ropes kind of was really cool. But I spoke to Girardi when he got traded to Tampa, and he was like, "You have no idea. Like these guys are driving jet skis over to each other's houses and just it's like make believe land, So yeah, and then thankfully, like you said, I was able to get a taste of it at 23, and it's unmatched for sure. I enjoy it at least. I mean, some guys are probably, yeah, I like to be kind of honed in and throw the suit and the coat on and the toque and whatever and get to the rink. But no, shorts and flip flops were perfect for me. So
Love it. Love it.
So, switching back over to gear talk a little bit. Now you're overseas. So how does gear work out over there, specifically in the UK for you guys? Do you guys have like individual like partnerships? Does the team have a partnership with certain brands, or just how does it look like over there for you now?
yeah, same thing. Kind of based off of the team. Um, I was in Germany last year in the Del 2, and we were a strictly Warrior team. They didn't really allow any exemptions with anything really like stick wise. So everybody was using a Warrior. This year I'm in Guildford and we're a CCM team, but they will let some guys use whatever sticks they want. Kind of, we've got guys coming from other leagues around Europe and kind of know what they like at this point because they're older and things like that, and they'll cater to them. Um, so yeah, it's just really a matter of kind of what team you're on, and I do know that some teams have that same exemption that the coast would have, where you're like, okay, you'll still get your clothing and Gitch deal, if you don't go over maybe say three guys that are different than everybody else. But yeah, it's basically just based off team, really.
Yeah, and how about because and I know like a good amount of gear people probably know that the majority of NHL players go through upwards of 100 sticks per season. Is,
Yeah.
is that the same with you guys? And what about even in the coast and whatnot? Like, do you guys have to be like more cautious about it, or is it free reign? And do you get up that high sometimes?
Well, first of all, the Coast sticks are made never to break, so you could
Oh,
put
the
that thing over the
yeah,
yeah
yeah,
yeah the
yeah.
team ones. You could put that thing over the bar and it'd last you another month. So those ones are tough to break, but yeah, in Europe it pretty much the same thing. Like it's going to depend on team. There are a couple teams that aren't as financially well off as other teams, and they'll have hefty fines. If they see guys that are on one knee in the corner and a drive by comes along and they snap it in two, or um, yeah, I've definitely seen fines for sure. Just kind of like reckless behavior that they don't like. You know what I mean? Like, if we lose a game in overtime and you got guys coming off the ice and they're putting one over the boards and things like that, like, they don't appreciate that and they'll give you a talking to. But generally they're really good. Yeah, and it just depends. Like some guys, I mean, I've already gone through a batch of 12 this year, and I've played 12 games before I got hurt. So with preseason and things like that, I don't know if it was just a bad batch or what, but my trainer's kind of giving it to me a little bit like, hey, slow it down. But yeah, it's just it happens. You know what I mean? I mean, they're not made to last forever, but yeah, when you hear of guys, like Phil Kessel, that's getting a fresh one every game, and that's pretty crazy. I'm definitely not. I haven't seen anybody that's been on that level that I've played with, but I mean that's obviously a different standard up there. So yeah.
Still love the
Yeah.
Hosa story, getting three sticks every game, and he cuts them down to three different heights every
Who,
single.
who's that?
So,
Oh, really?
yeah, he would get three sticks every single game, fresh cut, and he would cut them himself to three different heights.
Really? Eh?
Yeah, every single game.
That's interesting. I was actually taping mine up today, just getting excited to get back on tomorrow, and I put all mine together and I said, geez, boys, I must have been in a blender before I left because I got the staircase as well. I got three different heights. So I got to figure that out too, I guess. But yeah, that's impressive. Some guys just don't care. Like it's crazy to me at least because I'm so kind of honed in on it all the time. And you got guys who are out there with like the level on these things, trying to chop them to the specific height, and other guys are just like, I ballpark it, like whatever. It's funny how you see different quirks along the way while you're playing.
I
So
forgot who said it. It was on like Spittin' Chicklets or something a while ago. But whoever they were talking to said like Paul Correa could know if it was off by like a millimeter. Like if
really,
had a stick that was off, he had two sticks, and one of them was a millimeter higher than the other, he would know. Like, and I think
yeah,
I don't know for sure if they said like they actually put it to the test, or he may have just said like the trainer could have given him two, and he Korea would have been able to like use both of them and be like, this is the taller one. Like it's not, it's
yeah,
off by a millimeter. I can't do it. So yeah, you said it. I mean, it is just nuts how like um you know you know how much of a psychopath some of these guys can
yeah,
be.
for sure. And I mean, it's probably a little bit of me also. With I like to think I got a little bit of mild OCD when it comes to my gear, but I'm really bad for like steel in my skates. I can feel everything that's off in my skates, and if something goes, like I just have to change out my whole set because I'll go through three sets in a game if it's not perfect. And like I said, my trainer probably giving me a little bit of gears if he watches this, but yeah, that's my kryptonite. I would say is my steel for sure.
Give us an example. Like, is it you can tell if it's not like cut at half inch or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, well, every ice surface is different, right? So I kind of juggle actually with my hollow a lot of the time. I've just been brought down over the years. I mean, I used to be like half inch when I was a kid or something, and then my trainer in junior kind of put me at 5/8, and then went down to 3/4. But right now I'm at an inch, and just with like the more you sharpen it, obviously, the more you lose your contour and your pitch and things like that. And as soon as my pitch goes or my contour goes, I can feel it immediately, and then I got to get them redone or send them back home for my guy to do them or whatnot. But yeah, it throws me for a loop, and it rattles me to be honest. But
So do you get them cut like every intermission basically?
in junior, I was very bad, and I got taken aside by the trainers like, I'm not sharpening your skates every period, buddy. Like, get over yourself, kind of thing, right? Um, because when you come over here, like for instance in Germany last year, like you're so far from home. My trainer didn't speak a lick of English. He was a great guy, and we could communicate, but like he doesn't know exactly what I like, right? So, um, I bring over a couple pairs of steel just so that I have some leeway, and I've come to a little bit of a science to it now where I kind of like rotate them and try and try and go as long as possible without sharpening so that nothing goes wrong really. And then if they got to get done, they got to get done, right? So
Yeah,
When you
good
think
stuff.
about it, it's kind of
yeah.
crazy. You don't hear more guys like being particular with their steel. Like I know there are definitely guys that are very, but it's like that's not when you hear people like talking about like gear superstition or being, OCD about something with their gear,
Hmm.
never steel. That's actually a really interesting one there.
Yeah, the steel one actually kicked off for me probably 3 years ago. Or yeah, 3 years ago, I was playing in Cardiff here in the UK. And my trainer came up to me and was like, "Hey, I got a bunch of guys ordering ramen edge steel. Do you want them?" And I said, "Oh, I have no idea what those are." Like, and he said, "Well, they're supposed to be a better quality steel, and they're just a little bit thicker than the LS steel. Um, do you want to give them a try? I'll order you a pair." I said, "Well, yeah, why not? It's free. It's awesome. Whatever." Yeah. And I put them in, and they were unbelievable. Um, they'd be nicked up, and I wouldn't even feel it. Like they lasted forever. They were a little higher than the LS as well, and same thing. Like I said, like a little wider. I just felt like my glide was a lot better, and that was kind of the first time where I was like, "Oh, okay, wow, you can really play around with this stuff too." And then I noticed like a lot of guys in the NHL are using it. Matthews is using Ramen Edge as well.
Yeah.
Um, and then the place that I get my skates done up in Mississauga near Toronto, actually, they do a lot of the Leaf stuff. They have this brand new machine. I think he told me it was like $100,000 machine, and it'll sharpen and contour your skates in like one pass. And they're shipping out a ton of steel. They're called Titan blades or Titan steel. I forget what the actual name is. Um, and yeah, this machine, it makes it completely perfect. Your contour is perfect every time, and that's actually probably a terrible thing for me because now I notice even the most minuscule thing. Um, but I handed him the ramen edge steel, and he kind of looked at me. He's like, "Oh, well, where do you play? Where'd you get these?" type of thing. And I told him I play overseas. And he goes, "Oh, wow, yeah, like Matthews is using these." And I said, "Yeah, I saw that." He goes, "Yeah, his steel are just a little bit longer than yours, though. I'm running like a 280 steel, so that's probably like a you know 8 to 9.5 maybe." And I was like, "Oh, wow, he's got like pretty big boots then." No, and he said, "Well, no, he's actually probably around a size 9, but he's extended his tuck and he's using a 292." And the guy handed me this steel, and I was like, "It's a ski." I couldn't believe it. It was the largest steel I've ever put in my hands. And he goes, "Yeah, he's been tinkering around with it." Um, and then yeah, I noticed a ton of guys have extended their holders all the way to the end of the boot, like maxing it out. Um, and I noticed the other day Detroit posted like a post of Patrick Kane kind of giving some kid some knuckles, and his holder is larger than his actual boot. Like it's hanging off his skate. So I'm like, wow, there must be a science to this now. So I'm sure that's another loophole I'll slide into somewhere down the line. But
Well,
yeah.
that's awesome. I didn't even notice that. I mean, and now I'm gonna be driving myself nuts looking for it whenever, Matthews, Kane, and all those guys are playing next. But wow, that just like at first glance, it doesn't seem like it makes sense, and it doesn't seem
Hmm.
like comfortable. I mean,
Yeah.
if your holder is almost like longer than your actual boot, then I don't see how like it just seems like it automatically holds you up. Not that I'm telling Austin Matthews and Patrick Kane how to skate, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that, that's just like I'm just saying like at first glance that's what it seems like.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, if you kind of, I guess, if you think of like Patrick Kane and Austin Matthews as skaters, like they're kind of gliding and pushing all the time. You know what I mean? And it's probably just, I I mean, this is just theoretical. It could be better glide. It could be more blade on the ice. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, I kind of thought that maybe it was more of like a Mars blade tactic where you have more steel on the ice all the time, but it's you never know. So
It's something hard to get used to because I picked up a pair of Backstrom like Vapors just to try out and then realized they
mhm.
had longer steel in it. So the first stride I take, I toe pick and just go down. So it's like it
Yeah.
shows how good these guys are that they're able to do that. But I think you're right though. I think what I heard actually from one of the Hawks guys is that it does help more with the glide and it takes away like the actual push and strain that you put on your legs by skating so that you have a
Hmm.
little bit more energy out of it too, so that
Yeah.
theory is pretty spot on.
Yeah, it's interesting, and that theory behind the Mars blades, I love it. I was actually uh, sponsored athlete by Mars Blade 2019. I play roller hockey on the side too. I have since I was young. I ended up playing World Championships in Barcelona in 2019, and I actually had the black holders, the O1s on my skates at the time, and I kind of messaged them and was like, "Hey, you know, I've got these. Do you think like they'd be able to play a game in them?" And they said, "Oh, we're actually headed down there to Barcelona because we're trying to get some guys to try out like our new metal ones. And would you be interested?" I said, "Oh yeah, that'd be fantastic." They brought me a whole brand new. They were like, "What skates do you wear?" I said, "Oh, I'm size 9 APXs at the APX twos at the time." And they showed up with brand new fresh APX twos with these holders on them and let me use them all tournament and loved them. They were amazing. Um, and then when they found out I played ice, they sent me the ice ones as well, and I actually wore them in Orlando for a little bit. But yeah, like I said, just a trainer's worst nightmare I am. So those that was their first prototype. And the steel that they put in them, obviously only their steel can go in it, right? So their steel was the quality was just a little soft and they were nicking like crazy. And yeah, he was sharpening them every period. So I said, hey, listen, like just throw the old tucks back on. Like I feel terrible that you're doing these every period, but they were fantastic. You see a ton of kids in a couple NHL guys now, but a ton of kids in junior like OHL are wearing them now, and there were a ton at World Juniors. So it's good to see that it's finally taken off, and I know Paramars a little bit, and really happy for them because, like I said, they were just starting out in 2019, and it's coming to pretty quick. So it's good to see.
Going back to steel specifically, have you heard of the up and coming company now? They're called Green Hockey, based out of
Yes,
Switzerland. Yeah, so
Switzerland. Yeah,
yeah, first of all, like they're pretty expensive blades. I remember we
very,
post about them, and people
very.
like were commenting on that. But like Ryan O'Reilly's using them in Nashville, a couple other Nashville
Hmm.
guys are, and Nino Niederreiter, obviously he's got
Yep.
this connection. I don't know if you've tried them at all yet. Uh being overseas maybe it was a little bit easier, but if there's so they're recycled blades that used from recycled material. I don't know.
Hmm.
Have you given them a shot yet, or what do you know?
No, I haven't tried them. But the research that I've done on them, I think that obviously they're the recycled material, like you said, is the big kicker, but I think they're a little bit lighter as well. Um, Bauer came out with that carbon steel, with that carbon fiber insert. I think it's along the same lines. Don't quote me on it, but I did definitely notice that as well. And they have that. They have those steel with like the little balls in them as well, too, don't they? Like the roller or the for the synthetic. Is that the same company?
Oh yeah, it
Have
might.
you,
Yes, I think I do
right. Yeah.
know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's interesting as well. I mean, there's tons of synthetic pads popping up everywhere now, and that seems to be a new tool that's going to be used a lot. So it's interesting. Yeah, it'd be cool to try them out for sure.
All right. Well, getting back into what you're using now and whatnot. I believe you're still using CCM sticks, right? And
Yeah,
with
right now, yeah.
Yeah. So, and in like our comments and in the equipment world all over, there's a lot of chatter about, what's going on with CCM now and what they've done in terms of not offering older builds anymore. And from one of our earlier conversations, that affected you. So why don't you
Hmm.
tell the viewers here kind of what you went through and what your favorite build was, and when CCM told you, sorry, can't do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So I stumbled upon that because I ended up signing with Cardiff halfway through the season. So it was pretty abrupt, and they obviously didn't have a stick order for me or anything like that. So I kind of walked into the team, and they were like, "Well, what do you use?" type of thing. We'll see what we got. And at the time, it was the FT4s that were out. So I picked up, I had a couple FT4s from a guy who was injured, and I went through those pretty quickly. And then I had to shift over to another guy's, and it was an FT4 again, but it was a completely different build. And I was like, well, this is completely different. It still had the R shaft shape and everything like that, but it was way skinnier, way lighter. It had way more pop to it. I loved it. Um, and thankfully they lasted me the rest of the year, and then the next year I got to use them again. But um, I noticed that the next year FT5s came out. I ended up breaking all those FT4s and moved to these FT5s, and they were terrible compared to this stick. And I was like, oh my goodness, I was so frantic because I forgot to get a code. I forgot to, I didn't have any info. They weren't my order of sticks anyways. So finally this year, I got a hold of the CCM rep and I said, hey, do you by any chance have my buddy's old order from that season? And I found out that I was using an FT3 dressed as an FT4, and that's why it was different. And I was like, okay, just give me the same thing. Like that was the magic stick. It was awesome. Um, and he said, yeah, like unfortunately we can't do that anymore. CCM's cut all of their old builds up to an FT5. The lowest you can get is an FT5 now. So I was like, oh my goodness, this is the worst news ever. And then it clicked for me. I was like, well, McKinnon just switched to Bauer. Like, what's going on? So I asked him. I said, like, is this why? And he said, yeah, I don't have any explanation as to why, but even the top dogs aren't getting what they normally have. Um, Obviously, Nate was using an old build and was just getting it dressed as whatever the year was. But so I ended up, I was like, I'm not using these FT5s again because they were junk. So right now I have an FT6 dressed as a 7. And then the next batch, I'm sure like the 7s will be out. So I'll probably just keep it the same and just go FT7 as a 7. But yeah, it's interesting. And that's why I kind of seen one of your guys' posts and kind of commented on it because, like you got two of the greatest players in the game right now using your brand, let alone McDavid. McDavid just switched to his tack like
Yeah.
a couple
And
nights ago, a
yeah,
late one. Like I was 19 when I was in junior when I was using that tack. And crazy shift from him, anyways, because I think Adam Oates switched him to that P92, and then now he's back to the Iginla, his old Iginla curve, which I'm hearing is a Lie 4, which is insane. Um, but obviously it works for him. So that in itself is crazy. But like you know, you literally have Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon, and you're gonna just say like, "Hey, sorry, we're not doing those anymore." So it's kind of baffling. Like I think I can understand why Nate was a little sour and just did a full brand switch up because, I mean, that's terrible news. I was devastated, and I don't play in the NHL. So
well, did you see what McDavid at the time we're recording this, what he was using last night at yesterday, I should say, at practice? He
I missed it.
he had so um he's the last 5 or 6 games now he's been using that the original Super Tax graphic with
Yes.
whatever it's built as and then as his old the Gimlet curve, the square toe, whatever.
Hmm.
And yesterday at practice he pulled out some sticks that had the AS4 graphic with that
Oh, I
old
did see
curve.
that. I did
So
see your
it
post.
was
Yeah.
I mean, it's like he part of me thinks he really did like the look of the OG Super Tax too. So that's
Yeah. Yeah.
so like that's why like we put up a post yesterday that was like how
Well,
long
I don't even,
have these
did he even use
AS4s.
did he
No,
even use the
yeah,
S4
I
graphic?
don't think he
I've
did.
never seen him.
I didn't research through like our database if we had any record of him using it in a game. He may
Yeah.
have,
I don't,
but it was very, very brief. And
yeah.
that's why I was just saying, like, how long have all of these been locked up at Rogers Place or wherever
Seriously. Yeah.
practice? And he's like, he must have like found like I need my old curve again. I'll take these back if it gets
Yeah. Those were in the janitor's closet or something for him. But yeah, that's pretty wild. That kind of reminds me of remember when Mike Green was like messaging people on like
yeah.
proclaimed hockey for his CNTs. Remember those?
Yeah,
Yeah.
our good
That was
buddies, the Russian machine never breaks. They cover the Capitals. They've done a couple good stories on that. And but that was an all-timer
that
for
was
sure.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was big partaker in that Facebook group when I was a kid, just always on it every single day. It was funny. So yeah, I remember that. That was hilarious. But it is interesting. Like I feel like he went from that. The 2.0 is the middle yellow graphic, right? Is what he's got, or what he went back to, or
I think
super tack. Sorry, super tack, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
then
I feel like he went from super tack to the jet speed. Did he not?
yeah. Yeah, he
Like
did.
I don't remember that AS4 being in there at all.
Yeah, and I
So
mean, even the Super Tax 2.0 was like a little bit different. It had a little more black
yeah,
on
black. Yeah,
it.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
I don't like if I'm just thinking, I think if he did use it in a game, it was very, very brief. Like it was only
Hmm.
for like a game or so. So, but you're
Yeah.
right. It was OG Super Tack straight into jet speed graphic
Yeah.
and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so like I think they're playing tonight too. So I can't wait to see what he's
Well,
using.
he's suspended.
Oh, that's right. Geez, yeah, he got
Yeah.
3 games. Yeah.
You're gonna have to
Oh,
wait on it.
yeah, yeah. Well, geez, let's get back to it a little bit more. But not to put you on the spot, but to put you on the spot a little bit. Like you got a prediction for what you think like Nate and Sid are gonna do? Because like Sid, like Nate has at least been like experimenting, with some of the Bauer sticks.
Yeah.
But now,
Yeah.
like even him recently, he's got those Trigger 3D graphic sticks back again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now he's even got the CCM gloves in the alternate colors. But like Sid has not given us an inch. Oh, I should say
Use
a couple weeks ago he was using that Trigger 8
trigger.
graphic that even had like its own custom like CCM
Yes. Yeah.
art on the
The
front. But
CCM was just outlined again.
yes,
He loves the outline. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what do you
Yeah.
got? Like you got a prediction for what they might do or
I don't know. See, I don't have any insight because I don't have the usually they give us like an Excel sheet for CCM with all and they've got all their builds and everything that you can see. So I don't know if maybe they kind of bit the bullet and brought the old constructions back or for them. I can't see it happening, but um yeah, I don't know. Like you got to think like are these guys just going to be going back to the cottage and grabbing their summer sticks and trying to make it last, I don't know. It's you're gonna have to make do. I'm sure they'll CCM is gonna do everything in their power to find a construction that's similar or tweak something for them or whatnot. But I mean, yeah, and Nate was real hot with that Bauer too. So that's interesting that he went back to the CCM. So honestly, to answer your question, I have no prediction, but you got to think that CCM is not going to let a guy like that go. They're
right?
going to do everything in their power to find something that works for them. So you never know. He could try something new and like it, or yeah. So it's a tough call. I don't really have any input on that one, but
Right. Yeah, it was more of a just curious if you did have it.
yeah,
I mean, we know it's just a complete crapshoot. Like you never know what these
mm,
guys are going through. Just because like um you know you would think like why does it matter? But it does matter. And
it
and
does matter.
and
It's
and
yeah,
even like there's so many other examples. Like Jack Eichel stuck with that Supreme 1S graphic for the longest time. Even like
hmm,
I'm pretty sure he was playing the Cup final in 2023
yeah,
with that graphic.
yeah,
And like people will blow us up all the time being like it's just the graphic, it's just the graphic. And we go, yeah, but it matters to them. Like because these guys are there's a reason
for
why they're
sure.
still sticking with it. So like and we
Yeah,
wish we knew what the answer was, but it could just be, it could just be like they just are superstitious, they like the look of it, whatever. But it
yep,
just it's a never ending like this is why, but also because of this, that type of thing.
yeah. I kind of love that. We go back to kind of that individuality talk. I mean, you know, it doesn't matter, but in your head it does. Like when Stamkos came into the league and he's on Tampa Bay using red Bowers all the time because it's the color of the goal light. It's just like whatever that mental edge is. You see like JVR just had that lime green streak forever with his tape
Yeah.
and his mouth guard, and like yeah, it just depends. I mean, I've played with guys who I don't care. I don't care what my graphic is. Just make it match the team colors. Or me personally, like I always like to look down at a black stick, and I always order like a matte blade, and I try and get it matte as high as you can get it. Because I always loved my favorite stick was the 195 that had that matte blade finish. Um, so I always get it matte, but sometimes it's just not good enough, and I ended up matte spray painting it all the time. Um, it's just completely personal preference, whatever your mental edge is, and I kind of like seeing how guys kind of deal with it, or what their quirks are. So it's interesting part of the game for me.
Awesome. So yeah, I guess just we got a few more minutes here just to wrap it up. What curve are you using right now? I don't think you mentioned it earlier, and I think we touched on it earlier, but like, do you envision yourself maybe giving the Zegers a try? I know we were talking about that off camera a little bit. So what do you got now, and would you ever switch to try and give that Zegers a go?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of itching for it, honestly. I've been pretty bad over the last 5 years. I've always flip-flopped between P92 and P28. Just kind of the switching from the different lie all the time was kind of screwing me up a little bit. And then P90TM came out stock, so that's what I have right now. But I've always kind of had that in betweener. My first year pro, I started in Slovakia at 23, and we were a warrior team there too. Um, they didn't have that Nathan Horton curve for me, so I kind of sent him a picture and was like, "Hey, like, can you get anything close to this?" And they sent me Jonathan Tabes's stock curve or pro stock curve. Um, Same thing. It was kind of like a P28 with that P92 toe for the first time, but super low lie. It was like a lie four or something like that. So I didn't like that. And they couldn't get it in a higher lie for me. So I love that curve, but I just couldn't deal with the lie. So I've been with this P90TM for the last 3 years now. I like it a lot. That extra toe kink's really nice, but yeah, I don't know that Zegers curves call my name, especially with everyone switching to it with Matthews and Caulfield, and you just see them popping up all over the place. And
Yeah,
I kind of love it that one little thing, and guys are like, oh, okay, like I got to try that too, and you just see it popping up all over teams and things like that. So,
yeah,
um, my favorite thing ever is to see like a guy using just somebody's stick that isn't theirs. You know what I mean? Like Dylan Larkin using whoever's stick it was. I forget what it was, but
Matthew.
Matthew's stick, right? Yeah. So he's
Yeah.
probably trying out the Zegers curve or whatnot. And yeah, I love things like that. The big joke last year was that I lived at the stick rack in Germany because, like I said, like Warrior will let you do anything and everything to your stick, whether it's color, it's like custom graphics. They'll put emojis on your stick. They put your team logo there, your country's flag, um, and I hadn't been Warrior in a while, so it was kind of neat to see like all the different kick points and different blade textures and types. And I was just a kid in a candy store. Obviously, it's not super crazy things, but it's stuff that I take notice of. And for me as a player, like I I I define guys by kind of their tape job. That's how I know kind of who's on my team. I get familiar with everybody, and I know what my line mates are using and things like that. And I kind of just joke about like I think the equipment manager would be the best job in the world because I love chopping it in the room with the guys, and I love gear. So might not like the road trips and the late nights putting out the gear, things like that, but I think it would be an incredible job. So
Definitely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. And of course that's why you're here right now talking to us.
of course, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'll spend a
Yeah,
whole nother hour on here if you guys
yeah,
will let
yeah.
me, but
No. Uh,
yeah, so
you're already getting into like we got to get Jake on again. It feels like there's so much more to get to, but
yeah.
um, just last few more. From what I've seen, like you've only ever worn vapor skates
Mhm.
from what I've seen, and you touched on that earlier. But like, is do you swear by them, or is that just a thing like you're not willing to experiment with where sticks might be different?
It's funny actually. I'm actually in CCMs this year. I'm in
Oh,
FT6s.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's funny. So in Germany last year, I got my normal custom order from Bauer. And just for me, like the last 2 years, I usually don't get like an extra stiff boot because you get multiple pairs a year, so you kind of just get them how they come, no added extra weight or anything like that. But they really started to break down on me, and so my team in Germany were like, hey, listen, like it's a little late in the season, like we're not going to order you a second pair. I'm like, guys, like I can't even stand up out here. Like my footbed was just I could twist my boot, like it was just broken down. It was so bad. Um, so anyways, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like I'm gonna have to go out and buy my own skates, I guess. But they had a fresh pair of AS3 tacks in the back room that were my size. So I threw my Bauer tuck on them and kept my steel and everything, and I finished the year with those. And they tore my feet apart because I wasn't used to them, but I really loved like the one piece construction on it. So I was like, hey, listen, like if I can get, because CCM does a little bit different than Bauer, where Bauer will just they have the customized ability, but they kind of just scan your feet and tell you what line you're going to be in, right? What fit nowadays, fit one, two, and three. But CCM will actually take like a digital mold of your feet, and they go and make the mold of your foot in their factory and build the skate around your foot. So it's actually like full custom now. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, if that's the case, then I love this one piece boot. Then I'll get into these CCMs. Um, anyways, little hiccup with the ordering process. They lost my scan or whatever, so they ended up giving me my all my custom options, but just in like a normal boot, and then I just did the normal heat mold and everything like that. Um, they're comfy for sure. I love the one piece boot, but my ankles are screaming in them right now, and it's probably because I've been off the ice for 2 months. But especially at this point in the season, coming down to crunch time, I'll probably just grab my second order and go back to my old reliables with the vapors. But um, yeah, I don't know. It'd be something to experiment again next year, maybe if I got a full mold or whatnot. But um, it was interesting. I mean, I'm a huge Kucherov fan too, and I noticed he switched over to the jet speeds as well. So it kind of made me feel better about my choice. And but then, Matthews throws his hat in the ring, goes back to Bauer. I'm like, okay, well, what's wrong with these now? And so it's interesting. But yeah, I'll probably stick with my Bowers from here on out.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I mean, we've kept you for just about an hour now, and this has been great, man. I mean, this is the kind of conversation we live for, and why we wanted to start doing some of these things. So yeah, it seems like and now of course you just bring up Matthews and the Bauer skates. We could probably go on for another
For
20 minutes
sure.
about
For
that,
sure.
but we'll have to get you back on at some point down the road once more stuff develops and once you play get back to playing a little bit more and everything. And just on that note, we wish you the best in the recovery process and hoping everything goes well tomorrow. First day back on the ice, and hopefully you finish strong this season and everything.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate it. This was a ton of fun. Anytime, I would love to come back, chop it up. Appreciate you guys having me on, and thanks for the wishes. Appreciate it.
You got it, man.
Yep.
Take care.
You as well. Thanks.